delivering quality education, expanding access to learning. The official TV-based instruction of Tagum City. This is Tagum City Division's DepEd TV. Tara na!
Welcome to a interesting episode of Lantaw Compre with your teacher Frenny, teacher Queenie. Let us learn together Earth and Life Science 11, Population and Factors Affecting Changes in Population. Brace yourselves for our lesson objectives. I've got exclusive questions to kick off the lesson. First, what is population explosion? Second, what causes population explosion? And third, is there a human population explosion? Do you see such questions too difficult to answer? Well, our pretest might shed some light, dear. Kindly choose the answer to each 5 questions. Write the letter only. After 10 seconds, I will reveal the answer. Now, let's get going! Number 1. A population is a group of A. Individuals in species. B. Species in a community. C. Communities in an ecosystem. Or D. Individuals in a family. Bravo! It's letter B. Species in a community. Number 2. What is a biotic potential? A. How well adapted a species is to its environment and its rate of reproduction. B. How many biotic environmental resistance factors there are in a particular area. C. The carrying capacity of an area. Or D. The number of species in an area. Hooray! It's letter A. How well adapted a species is to its environment and its rate of reproduction. Number 3. It is the maximum population that the environment can normally support for an indefinite period. A. Biotic potential. B. Inflection point. C. Carrying capacity. Or D. Exponential rate. Cheers for another smart choice. It's letter C. Carrying capacity. Number 4. Which of the following best explains the difference between Semelparous and Iteroparous species? A. Semelparous species generally have fewer offspring than Iteroparous species. B. Iteroparous species generally die after reproduction, while Semelparous species do not. C. Semelparous species reproduce once in their lifetime, while Iteroparous species reproduce multiple times. Or D. Iteroparous species put all their resources into a single reproductive event, and Semelparous species do not. You are confident and correct. Letter C is the answer. Number 5. The mortality rate of organisms following a type 3 survivorship curve is A. Fairly constant throughout life. B. Higher in a post-productive years. C. Lower after the organisms become established. Or D. Unrelated to age. Rejoice as you need B. The answer is letter D. Unrelated to age. You really aced the preliminaries. Good job, class! Now, let's move along to our lesson. Every living and non-living organism on Earth live interdependently in order to survive. Ecology is the branch of science that deals with the interaction and interdependence between these organisms and their environment. In exploring ecology, it is vital that you come into terms with the ecological interactions that transpire in a specific area. It constitutes 4 levels, namely populations, community, ecosystems, and biosphere. Have you heard of these terms before? What are their differences? How are they related? Individuals live together in populations. Different populations build up the community. Communities with the non-living things in their surroundings make up an ecosystem. All the ecosystems on Earth make up the biosphere. Let's now define the first ecological level, population, through these pictures. What are your observations on the population of each group of animals? Do you think the bats in Montfort Bat Cave in Samal and the bats in Bat Cave, Boracay Island came from the same population? Why do you say so? What do you think would happen to the population of crocodiles in Subic, Subic if their habitat would dry up? When a group of scientists studied the population of bats in Montfort Bat Cave in Samal Island, they noticed that over the last 4 years, their population has grown quite rapidly. How did it happen? What could be some possible reasons for it? Wow! Those are mind-blowing questions. But whatever is challenging is worth pursuing, right, class? Now, speaking of population growth, these two key terms are noteworthy: biotic potential and environmental resistance. The former is defined as the ability of a population of living species to increase under ideal environmental conditions, such as a sufficient food supply, no predators, migration, seed dispersion, and a lack of disease. Meanwhile, the latter is termed as any or all factors which are biotic and abiotic that act to limit the growth of population. Say, lack of water, predation, scarcity of food, infertile soil, and catastrophe. The combination of the two factors regulates the carrying capacity of an ecosystem. Carrying capacity is the maximum population of species a habitat can sustain. Rapid increase, therefore, of a particular species could lead to boom! Population explosion. Could biotic potential and environmental resistance affect population size? How? How then are species in a population distributed? What are the three dispersion patterns? Well, there's only one way to find out. Please answer the succeeding task to know better. As our lesson progresses, so does your performance. Now, you will advance your understanding on population size and population density. Population size is the number of individuals in a population. For example, a population of insects might consist of 100 individual insects or many more. Population size influences the chances of species surviving or going extinct. Generally, very small populations are at the greatest risk of extinction. However, the size of a population may be less important than its density. Meanwhile, population density is the average number of individuals in a population per unit area or volume. For example, a population of 100 insects that live in an area of 100 square meter has a density of 1 insect per square meter. To better understand the concept of population size, please have an amazing read about an article entitled Changing Population Size on page 10 of your modules. Friends, do not skip the comprehension questions. Examine these two graphs and tell which model shows exponential population growth based on my description. Remember, population growth cannot go on forever unless both the environment and its resources are unlimited. Therefore, exponential growth only occurs for a limited time before slowing down and eventually stabilizing. You'll realize how exciting plotting is in our next activity, identifying the phases of logistic growth. Phase 1. When populations are small and resources are abundant, such as when organisms move to a new area, these populations tend to grow very fast. Circle only the area of the graph that shows exponential growth and label it Phase 1 Exponential Growth. Phase 2. As time goes on, individuals making up that population will find resources harder to find, the bigger that the population gets. Encircle only the area of the graph that shows growth slowing and label it Phase 2 Growth Slows. Phase 3. At some point, the environment will no longer have enough resources to support more organisms because it hit the maximum individuals it could support. The population will no longer grow or decline. It will just stay the same. When it happens, the environment is said to have reached its carrying capacity. Encircle only the area of the graph that shows population size has stabilized and label it Phase 3 Growth Stops, Carrying Capacity Hit. You wowed me with your brilliance, friendies. Let's keep moving forward. In this part of the lesson, we will unveil the factors that affect population density. First, the reproduction strategies which constitute the A. Similparity versus heteroparity. First, similparity. These species have a life characterized by death after first reproduction. Heteroparity, on the other hand, are species with lives characterized by multiple reproductive cycles throughout their lifetime. Here, you are going to identify whether a species is similparous or heteroparous. First, salmonfish. It's similparous. Second, pig. It's heteroparous. Third, octopus. It's similparous. Let us say hello to K strategists versus R strategists. I have prepared a table for you to address your confusions. Based on their characteristics, how would you label the organisms in the food web? The R strategists are the following: rabbit, grass, grasshopper, and caterpillar. While the leaves or trees, hawk, blue jay, owl, and snake are K strategists. The other factor that affects population density are density-dependent and density-independent factors. Density-dependent factors affect the population through increasing or decreasing birth and death rates in a way that is directly related to the density of a population. Examples include parasitism, predation, competition, and disease. However, density-independent factors refer to any influences on a population's birth or death rates, regardless of the population density. Density-independent factors are typically a physical factor of the environment, unrelated to the size of the population in question. Storms, drought, fires, and flood are the best examples to the second factor. Your ability to analyze situations will now be tested. Decide whether the situation is a density-dependent or density-independent factor. Mrs. Mijares has 52 students enrolled in her class, but her room can cater only 40 students. Because the room is crowded, the extra 12 students transferred to another room. Nicely done! Density dependent. Bagyong Pablo has killed thousands of residents of New Bataan. You're still keeping your focus. It's density independent. What can't you not do? You're a queener! Lastly, we have the life tables. Life tables are methods of measuring population structure that addresses all the population qualities. It is characterized by the following. A. Population age structure. The age structure of a population is the distribution of people of various ages. It is a useful tool because it illustrates population trends like rates of birth and deaths. It describes the population as increasing rapidly or slowly, stable or increasing. Then, we have the population survivorship patterns. Survivorship patterns, or curves, show graphically the relative survival rates of the individual at different ages. There are 3 types of survivorship curves. Type 1 individuals survive well early in life and generally live many years. At an advanced age, the death rate increases dramatically. Examples include large mammals. Type 2 individuals have a death rate that is relatively constant at any age. Examples are birds and reptiles. Finally, the type 3 individuals initially have a rather low chance of survival. Those that do survive may live to an advanced age. Examples include many fish, insects, and plants. There's no better way to validate your understanding than answering this simple task. Identify what type of survivorship curve is illustrated in each item. Number 1. Type correct. it's type 2. Number 2. Type cool, it's type 1. Number 3. Type chill, it's type 3. Your persistence brought you to this phase of the lesson. I hope your brains haven't exploded yet for this most awaited moment, the post-tests. You have 10 seconds to answer each question. Enjoy it while it lasts, friends. Number 1. Because of this and all those environmental conditions such as limited food and etc., exponential growth cannot continue for long. A. Logistic growth. B. Deceleration. C. Biotic potential. Or D. Environmental resistance. The correct answer is letter D, environmental resistance. Number 2. Logistic growth results in what shape of growth curve? A. S. B. Flat. C. J. Or D. U. Logistic growth results in letter A, an S-shaped curve. Number 3. This is the result of population when the death rate is larger than the birth rate. A. Grow. B. Shrink. C. Stay the same. Or D. None of the above. When the death rate is larger than the birth rate, the population shrinks. It's letter B. Number 4. Our strategies tend to have A. Few offspring. B. Little parental care. C. Sigmoid growth curves. D. All of the above. Yes, our strategies possess all mentioned characteristics. Letter D. Number 5. The mortality rate of organisms following a type 3 survivorship curve is A. Fairly constant throughout life. B. Higher in post-productive years. C. Lower after the organisms become established. Or letter D. Unrelated to age. Letter D, unrelated to age, is the correct answer. What a fascinating performance, friendies! Kudos! You may think you have accomplished so much today because of our very comprehensive discussion and thought-provoking exercises. Here's a gentle reminder. Some tasks left untouched should not be left unanswered. Please go over your modules to get things done, alright? Thank you, class, for joining me in this quinteresting episode of Lantaw, Compre. This has been your teacher Franny, Teacher Queenie, saying, the real problem is not population explosion, but what the population is doing. Therefore, never tire of doing what's good, worthy, and noble. Keep slaying! Ciao!